This week on Driver's Seat. Nissan's rear-wheel drive sports coupe, the 240SX. And from Acura, their top-of-the-line luxury coupe, the Legend. Plus, an all-new approach to car design from Chrysler. All coming up as we put you in the driver's seat. Brought to you in part by the helpful people at Shell. And Hankook Tire, makers of tires designed to compete, priced to win. Driver's Seat with Ted Laternus and Tony Whitney.
Welcome to the show. Well, Ted, unusually, we've got two Japanese cars this week.
That's right, a rear-drive sports coupe and a front-drive luxury sedan, although some people feel it probably should be the other way around.
Well, there'll always be arguments over that one, Ted.
That's right, it goes on forever. Front drive or rear drive? That is the question. As far as Nissan is concerned, rear-wheel drive is the way to go if you're in the market for a compact sports coupe. Their 240SX is one of the few sports coupes in the under 20,000 market segment that is not front-wheel drive. Swimming against the automotive current, they decided on rear drive for this model when it debuted 3 years ago. In fact, the 240's predecessor, the 200SX, was also rear drive, so Nissan obviously believes in the merits of a traditional drivetrain layout. It works well. The 240SX has superb road manners and offers the kind of stability and high-speed maneuverability we associate with cars that cost twice as much. Two body styles are available, coupe and fastback. All things considered, I think the hatchback has the edge. There is only one engine to choose from, an extremely robust 2.4-liter four-cylinder that develops 155 horsepower at 5,600 RPM. But there are two gearbox choices, 5-speed manual and 4-speed automatic. If you really want to appreciate this car, choose the manual. Fuel economy, 10.7 liters per 100 kilometers in the city and a thrifty 7.8 liters per 100 kilometers on the highway. Nissan has recently overhauled its warranty program, and it's one of the best in the industry, but basic coverage is still at 3 years or 60,000 kilometers. And base price for the fastback is $18,490. The 240SX has lots of options, including anti-locking brakes, limited slip differential, and Nissan's superhighway four-wheel steering, which sharpens its steering response, particularly during high-speed lane changes and cornering. It's also a pleasure to drive. The molded front bucket seats are remarkably comfortable, and there's plenty of interior elbow room, often a problem with this type of car. Instrumentation and control placement is exemplary, and some domestic manufacturers would do well to use the 240SX as a model on how to make ergonomics simple yet effective. But the heart of the 240SX is its remarkable drivetrain. The engine in this car is a marvel, extremely responsive, surprisingly powerful, quiet during operation, easy on gas. What else can you ask for? This may be one of the most versatile four-cylinder engines over 2 liters in size on the market. In fact, there really isn't much to complain about. I'd like it better if Nissan would include a full-size spare tire with its products, and the 240 styling strikes me as being a little humdrum. I also have mixed feelings about the pop-up headlights. But the 240SX is an attractive package. Traditional drivetrain layout, contemporary design, and a very competitive price tag. And this is a very competitive market segment. The 240 is up against the likes of the Volkswagen Corrado, Toyota Celica, Plymouth Laser, Eagle Talon, Honda Prelude, Ford Probe GT, and maybe even the Acura Integra. I have to give this a driving dollar value of a full tank, Tony. I think it's a good car.
Well, I'm inclined to agree. This was one of the first of the new wave of Nissan models. They had a dull range of models for a long time. This was one of the first when they turned things around. They went for that lovely interior with the pleatless seats, which look so nice, and they don't seem to sag because you see them now that have had quite a lot of use. The bodywork is wonderful. Personally, I like the little notchback version rather than the hatchback.
I prefer the hatchback, but not enough to make a big deal about it. But what strikes me about the cars, do you remember how extraordinarily ugly the 200 was, especially the very first one? It looked like an origami car, you know, they'd fold it together out of paper. It was an incredibly ugly automobile.
Yeah.
And they've come full circle. Now they have one of the, I think this is one of the most attractive looking cars in this market niche.
It is. It's very, very attractive. I think that the fastback is a little bit generic looking. It looks like a lot of other sports coupe. There's a big choice in this market these days for people. There's lots of good products out there. That's why I kind of lean towards a notchback. But it's a very nicely styled car. And in favor of the hatchback, it's not that much different looking than the 300ZX sports car.
That's right. And anything else in this market segment is not going to be as big inside. If I think about, say, the MX-3 or something, or even the MX-6, nowhere near as big inside as this car is. This is quite a big car inside, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, and real people can sit in the back, which is unusual, as well as little kids and so forth. I don't suppose the kind of people that buy cars in this class really need two huge seats, but they're there if you want them, and there's lots of room to throw your bags back.
And I also would encourage people to buy, because of the rear drive, if you want to experience the sort of traditional drivetrain layout and all the kicks that go with it, this is the car to get, you know. I mean, I'm glad they stayed with it.
Well, I guess so, yeah. I don't think that manufacturers, too many North American makers, say that front-wheel drive is the only way to go. They have a mindset on it, and I think they should always have open minds, because a lot of the great cars around the world, cars by BMW and Mercedes and so on, all rear drive.
And if you think about it, this is a very traditional car. This is a huge four-cylinder engine, 2.4 liters. Is a big engine for a car of this size. Anyway, we have to go to red light, green light. Red light, styling. Tony doesn't like the styling as much as I do. I think it looks very good, personally. Price, green light price is very good. Value, a lot of car for the money. And rear drive, I think, is great. Driving dollar value, as I say, I give it a full tank. I think this is a lot of car for the money.
Very generous, Ted. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Auto Info coming up next on Driver's Seat.
And now here's this week's Auto Info with Nancy Gertzen.
Although officially out of production, the ubiquitous Beetle just won't die. While German Beetles are still being assembled at a plant in Mexico, the only ones you'll see in North America are used. But now Escargot Motor Cars, a Canadian firm, is offering new Beetles. Well, more or less new. Every single piece of the car is brand new except for one, the frame. The company finds suitable frames in the southern U.S. and then custom builds the rest of the car. Cost of the new Beetle is $13,895 Canadian dollars with 12 to 16 weeks for delivery. Here's a look at the new Porsche 968, which made its debut at the International Tokyo Motor Show. The front-engine four-cylinder is a 3-liter with horsepower output of 236. Transmission is a new 6-speed manual, or you can opt for the Tiptronic automatic for a few extra dollars. And for even a few more extra dollars, the model is available as a cabriolet. Toyota Motor Corp recently unveiled for the first time ever an all-new side airbag system. Displayed on their futuristic Japanese model, the AXV3, the side airbag system protects driver and passengers from side-on impacts and is used in conjunction with frontal airbags. No word on when we'll be seeing side airbags on production models. And yet another car manufacturer is entering the foray, Ford's South Korean partner, Kia Motors. Korea's oldest and second largest automaking company, Kia has announced it will be competing in the U.S. market in 2 to 3 years. Their launch models will be the Sportage, a sport utility powered by a 16-valve 2-liter twin-cam 4, and the Sophia, a 4-door sedan powered by a 1.5-liter engine. The Sophia will also be offered as a convertible. Well, now there's competition for the General's ominous Cyclone pickup. Chrysler engineers are reportedly working on a Dakota 4x4 pickup fitted with a twin-turbo 400-horsepower 5.2-liter V8. And if you don't find that competitive enough, Chrysler is offering an optional power plant, the Viper's massive 8-liter V10. American Honda Company is running with the success of its top-selling Honda Accord. The company plans to export 35,000 U.S.-made automobiles to 18 countries next year, compared with shipments of 26,000 units to 8 countries in 1991. The Ohio-built Accord wagon will be a primary export in '92. The company expects its U.S.-built exports to reach 70,000 units by 1996. And it isn't just your imagination. Cars are getting bigger again. Mercedes' 1993 successor to the 190 series will be slightly longer and wider than the current model. And while the 4-door will be the only body style available initially, Mercedes is considering adding one or more variants in '94 or '95, including a wagon-like 2-door hatchback, a sport coupe, and a 2+2 convertible. The new 190 is aiming to compete directly with BMW's 3 Series range, which was introduced earlier this year in the U.S. in 4-door form only. Next year, BMW will add coupe and convertible models. And along with every other car maker, Jaguar is trying to boost sales. In an attempt to bring back a more sporty image to their lineup, they've introduced a 6-cylinder version of the XJS. For those who demand more spirited driving, the 4-liter straight six can be hitched to a 5-speed manual transmission. This is good news for Canadians, but bad news for the States, as Jaguar of America does not plan to offer this particular model. And that's Auto Info for this week. See you next time.
Thanks, Nancy. Here's Ross Bentley with this week's Auto Safety Quiz.
Performance Safety Quiz. Brought to you by BMW Canada.
Well, we all know that when it comes to driving, a green signal means one thing: go. But when you're sitting at a traffic light and the light turns green, when do you actually start to move? A, immediately. B, look left and right, then proceed. Or C, when the other traffic does. We'll be right back with the answer.
And now, with the answer to this week's safety quiz, here's Ross Bentley.
So when sitting at a traffic light and the light turns green, when do you start to move? The best answer is B, look left and right, then proceed. This should take a second or two, which is just about right. And it's also important to keep your foot on the brake until you're about to move. This will deter the driver behind from starting too quickly, and possibly rear-ending you if traffic makes you slow up or stop again. So think about this one, and we'll be back next week with another quiz. Ted?
Thanks, Ross. Those intersections are murder for sure. Well, time for car number 2 now, Tony.
Well, yes, Ted, and we're not halfway through the season. We've got yet another luxury coupe.
It's absolutely amazing to me. I would have thought this niche was already chock full. How could they possibly find room for another one?
Well, the makers still think there's plenty of buyers out there. Now, Acura's had a coupe in its Legend lineup right from the start. The new one follows closely on the new Legend sedan. The new coupe is a wonderfully sleek piece of automotive design, and the only real criticism I have is it's a little too big for its class. It's only slightly shorter than the sedan, and is the same width and height. Big as it might be, it has a sort of hunkered-down predatory look, and I like that a lot. Acura's new nose is used on Legend Coupe and sedan, in addition to the new Vigor. It's hard to tell the three apart when they come at you head-on, so maybe Acura could have used a little imagination here. But despite this rather generic feature, the Legend Coupe does make a more definite styling statement than its somewhat anonymous predecessor. The coupe is powered by a very satisfying 24-valve, 3.2-liter V6 that pumps out 200 horsepower at 5,500 RPM. Only complaint about the motor is that it tries to run off with you when you start it in cold weather. Constant dabs on the brakes are needed to keep it in check until it warms up and behaves itself. Our test car was fitted with a 4-speed automatic transmission with a shift lever that looks like it belongs in a stealth fighter cockpit. It's a good transmission, though, even if my choice would be the 5-speed manual. It lets the engine rev to redline before shifting to get the best out of the V6 motor. Power steering is fine for most situations, but it's possible to fool it during very fast turns. Other critics have noted this steering pump lag, a problem inherited from the old coupe. It's a very quick car and will zip to 100 kilometers per hour in about 7.5 seconds. Fuel economy is in the 11 liters per 100 kilometers range. Cost of the new coupe is $44,575, and Acura's base warranty is 3 years or 60,000 kilometers. Handling is exceptionally good, and this large coupe can be flung through tight turns like a much smaller sports car. Much of this ability comes from double wishbone suspension, front and rear, just like a Formula One car. Maybe Honda's racing people are passing on a few tips to the folks in the passenger car department. The coupe stops as well as it goes, with all-around disc brakes with anti-lock system. If you don't stop, there are dual airbags for the driver and passenger to plant their faces in. In the people and cargo packaging department, this is a more practical car than some rivals. The trunk is quite big and should hold a lot of luggage. The rear seats are reasonably usable, and up front everything is pure luxury, except for one serious shortcoming: headroom. If you're 6 feet or over, you can pretty well forget about owning a Legend coupe. No matter how hard I fiddled with the power seat controls, I just couldn't get comfortable. This is a serious shortcoming in a car for North America, and Acura should get something done about it right away. Otherwise, the driving position is great, and just about everything is well within reach. Also, the car has that wonderful solid feeling I associate with all Acuras. It feels just like a BMW or Mercedes, which is just what's intended, I'm sure. The climate control system takes a bit of getting used to, but worst of all, the air conditioning system falls short of North American standards. On a hot day with the sun on the car, it barely manages to cool the cabin, and I'm not talking about Arizona in the summer here either. With some reservations, especially headroom, the new Legend is very pleasing indeed and fits nicely into Acura's growing range. Competition includes Japanese contenders like the Lexus SC400, Toyota Supra, and Subaru SVX. If you really want to get rid of some money, you could buy a BMW 850i or a Mercedes 300 CE. A more reasonable European is the Audi 90 Coupe, and we shouldn't forget about the elegant Jaguar XJS. There's not too much in this class from domestic makers, but in my view there are few better-looking coupes than the Ford Thunderbird SC. It's also the best buy of the bunch on a performance-for-the-buck basis. Well, this one's almost right on, Ted, and I give it 7/8 of a tank, driving dollar value.
Yeah, I see what you mean about the headroom. Boy, that's terrible. I didn't have that problem. My biggest problem with this car was the runaway acceleration. In the morning, during a cold start, the engine is idling at about 2,000 RPM. If you don't pay attention, this thing will run away from you just like that, and it caught me by surprise several times.
Yeah, it's a very bad point, and other cars don't do it, so it must be something to do with the viscous coupling in the transmission. It just shouldn't drive the car along under those conditions.
Well, I think they probably put a chip in the box to make it run fast until the car's warmed up. You know?
Getting back to headroom, how can they do this? How can a company with this much experience, Honda we're talking about here, pull out a car like this that is not adequate for the North American market? I'm not particularly tall, 6'1" or so, not that tall. There are lots of taller people than me who'd like to buy this car. I think that, quite honestly, that they get the tallest guy in the drawing office in Japan, sit him in the car and say, and he's about 5'11", right? And they say, oh, wonderful, it'll be great for North America, but it's not.
Maybe they should rent a couple of basketball players to see how tall people really can be. I didn't have the problem. I found the car to be very, very comfortable in every way, but seeing that footage of you, boy, that is really bad. But what would stop me from buying the car is that runaway acceleration. The only other car that I can think of that has the same problem is the new Mazda 929, and it's not quite as bad as this one, but boy, oh boy, that is terrible. They really got to fix that.
Yeah, it's very irritating. I found myself on cold mornings having to hold the car with the brake against its wish to chase off on its own, and I was almost amusing myself to see how long it would take to get up to speed without even touching the accelerator, because it's very bad.
On black ice, this thing would be a killer, because you would hit the ice, and unless you had the presence of mind to put it into neutral, you'd be braking but creeping forward at the same time, and you'd be in big trouble right away with the car.
That's right, but getting back to positives, this is a wonderful feeling car. It feels great, it feels really solid. It's a little bit big on the big side for my liking. It's only a yay smaller than the big Legend sedan.
I think it's one of the few cases where the sedan looks better than the coupe.
Okay, well, let's sum up here. Things I didn't like about that car: the terrible headroom, the inadequate air conditioning, and kind of vague power steering. Quite a lot on the plus side. Styling, very nice. Engine, great. Acura feel, I love that Acura feel. Summing up, driving dollar value, 7/8 of a tank. Almost perfect, but not quite.
Honda, fix that runaway acceleration problem. We'll be right back. In its never-ending battle to keep up with the competition, Chrysler recently opened a brand new R&D facility in Auburn Hills, Michigan. Price tag, $1 billion.
Car sales are down, rebates are at an all-time high, and the Big Three's ability to compete is being questioned. Yet Chrysler believes it has captured the future of the auto industry by designing, engineering, and testing cars under one roof.
We all have to build cars that way, or you're not going to make it in this real, rough, tough, competitive world we're in now.
Chrysler is making it possible to create cars from start to finish in one location through the new Chrysler Technology Center, a megastructure big enough to hold 1.5 Empire State Buildings or 7 Rose Bowls.
This Chrysler Technology Center is basically an idea factory. It's a factory where we have great inventors here and scientists, and these idea guys can come to work in the morning in the front door and decide they have enough data to know what the American public wants and build a car and actually build it right here. I wish I were younger. I dreamt all my life to be in a place like this where you could have your own little private sandbox and dream a little bit and do wonderful stuff.
But Lee Iacocca and Chrysler know it will take more than a $1 billion, 3.3 million square foot building to ensure Chrysler's success. They're betting on what they say is their greatest resource, people, who've been reorganized into teams. Each platform team, as they are called, has a single-minded mission: to build a world-class car.
Everybody is together as a full, coordinated team from day one, 3 years in advance, when it's just a piece of clean paper and money, and now the minds come and bring this together. The Japanese have done the platform teams in a very simple way, so I think we've gone a step further, and we'll see how good we are.
At a single location, Chrysler can now see how a car performs at 12,000 feet altitude or 100% humidity. Make sure an engine starts at 40 degrees below or 135 degrees above. Test emission levels, manufacture prototype and pilot vehicles, and then drive them on a 1.8-mile evaluation road. Sounds great, and yet some believe it's a billion-dollar gamble for Chrysler.
CTC is a tremendous gamble. It's very expensive. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but there's really no choice. You either keep swimming in the shark analogy or you die, and Chrysler is swimming very aggressively with this move.
If it's a monument to anything, it's a monument to the end of short-term thinking in the United States. And other industries will have to do likewise. Take the long view, because without this, we would have no future, in my opinion.
Place like that will mean some great Chryslers down the road. Well, now it's time for viewers' feedback. And this week's letter comes from Tony M. King. And he writes, during a long line-up at a car wash, should I leave my car running at idle or shut it off and start again when the line starts to move? Well, Ted.
Well, I'm assuming he also means on the freeway or stuck in traffic or something. And the answer is, sure, shut it off. The way cars are made these days, I mean, it's not going to hurt the engine to shut it off like that. And I think he's probably thinking about the old days when the carburetor would probably flood or something,
well,
or would vapor lock or something.
I kind of disagree there. I think that there are very few circumstances when you're in control of a car where you can actually shut off the engine. Don't forget you lose all your ancillaries these days with a car. You have no power steering or power brakes.
Yeah,
the car becomes a real lump of lead.
But if you leave a car idling for more than 30 seconds, you are polluting the atmosphere, and that is a consideration given the number of cars around.
That's true, but it could also be argued. But when most of the pollution occurs during startup, when you start the car up. If it's idling at almost no revs,
not true. That's true with cold starts, but not when the car's warmed up. Especially not the kind of efficient engines they're making these days.
Well, I think there's a safety thing here and maybe an environmental thing. And it's a good question after all.
Yeah, we didn't think it would be, but it does make some sense. Personally, if you ask me, I never shut mine off. But now that I think about it, you probably should have.
Well,
it can't hurt.
Let me say this. I shut mine off if I have time. Okay, thanks to your letter, Tony. If we use your letter on Driver's Seat, we'll send you a Driver's Seat T-shirt, and here's where to write. Driver's Seat, Post Office Box 3301, Vancouver, BC, V6B 3Y3. That's Driver's Seat, P.O. Box 3301, Vancouver, BC, V6B 3Y3.
Time now to summarize today's cars. We like both of these cars quite a lot, with some qualifications. The 240SX we feel is a very good sports car. I especially like the fact that it's rear drive, and we think this is a worthy competitor in this market segment. A lot of car for the money. The Acura Legend Coupe, on the other hand, we do like it. It's a very good-looking car. Tony has a big problem with headroom. Didn't bother me too much. We both got a big problem with runaway acceleration on the Legend Coupe.
Well, I'll live with the acceleration. Just lower the driver's seat for me. Well, that's all for this week, and we hope you enjoyed the show.
Coming soon on Driver's Seat. Suzuki Swift GT, the Plymouth Laser, and the Toyota Camry.
So join us then, and we'll put you in the driver's seat.